My bike life started back in 2014. It all started back at Ludington State Park.
I was riding my Schwinn high planes around the campground. My brother showed up with his girlfriend and two mountain bikes in the back. I did not think anything of it, and really didn't even notice he had them in there when he pulled up. We were up in Ludington for family camping, fishing, hiking, and my bro and his girl came up for the day to hang out with us and our parents. I remember eventually riding around on my cheap Schwinn while he was tooling around on this awesome looking giant. Soon we started going off the roads a little bit into the woods. There were little side trails and I would follow his lead. I was coming down this hill that really wasn't any kind of a hill to get back to the road, and I pulled on the front brakes, both the front and the back brakes actually, and the front tire decided to turn sideways while the handlebars stayed straight. Well, that was the end of the derailleur and that bike. My brother said, "Let's go ride some trails here and shred," which we didn't know at the time they didn't allow bikes. He let me use his girlfriend's bike, which was way better than the Schwinn I was riding. We shredded those trails. I was out of breath, and from that point on, I was hooked. What a rush! Even better, all the hikers we came across didn't seem to mind that we were out on the trails on our bikes. During this same point in time, I had a friend named Matt. He was just getting into bikes at the same time and asked me if I rode. Crazy as it sounds, but with the influence of him and my brother, I was off to get myself a real mountain bike at Rock and Road in Grand Haven. I still remember heading to the shop and being so excited to get this bike, the giant XTC hardtail carbon fiber bike. Holy cow, I couldn't resist the excitement and sent my brother and Matt both pictures of this epic new carbon fiber hardtail. I was also introduced to my wife's friend Jen, who showed me this trail called Owassipee just before ICEMAN and said it would be a good warm-up before the Man of Ice. My brother and I at least got one ride in at Owassipee before it closed. In the meantime, October 2014, my brother says, "Hey, someone told me about this race called the ICEMAN. We should do it." I said, "Sounds great." I looked into it and it was sold out. But lucky for us, you could get a transfer in. We just had to find someone that was wanting out of the race. And somehow we both were lucky enough, or unlucky depending on how you look at it, to get an entry into the 2014 race. We all know how the race in 2014 went. Mudman 1.0. It was similar to 2019, Mudman 2.0, but with more water, a lot more water, and less mud in my opinion. So what that meant is it was colder because water in 33, 34 degrees equals hypothermia. In other words, you needed to just go as fast as you could to keep your body warm or you would freeze to death. Once you start sweating, there's no stopping unless you can get to a warm place.
Cheerleader, what's your name? All right, so this is 31.1 miles, what I got yesterday. 4, 3, 2, 1, and they're up! All right, so how much strong? It was 31.1 miles from the start line.
Prior to the 2014 ICEMAN, my longest ride was 24 miles, and that was a one-time deal. All my other rides were around 3 to 12 miles. Somehow, starting in wave 27, behind 2,700 other racers in the rainy, sleety, snowy mud bath, I still managed to have fun. I will say that as I neared the end, I was ready to be done. I finished, I waited for my brother, and I also finished in a time of 3 hours, 7 minutes, and 44 seconds. He came across the line a little after I did. He did not look good. He was pale. He lost his water bottle near the beginning of the race in a crash, so he was really depleted. He was freezing. He was barely able to form sentences. He was dry heaving constantly. I thought we were headed to the hospital, but instead he uttered, "Beef, jerky, Gatorade." I kid you not. After 2 bags of beef jerky and a couple Gatorades, within 20 minutes, he was almost normal. 2014 was something else. 2014 made me think to myself, do I want to race bikes? This isn't how I like to ride bikes. I mean, don't get me wrong, from time to time it's fun to rip through the mud, But I almost lost my brother. In 2014, I managed to get 32nd out of 82 in my age group and a hot shower afterwards. Heck yeah, I'm going to continue racing bikes. 2014 was the start of something. 2015, I actually started training when the snow melted. I wanted to be good, so I signed up for the sport class in mountain bike races. I wasn't bad. I was near the front of the sport class in my first season. I even made it a goal to win the overall in the MMBA CPS that year, but I was dominated by Scott. 2015 Iceman with my performance from 2014 earned me a start in wave 11. Right off the start, it was just me and another guy who I eventually dropped 5 miles from the finish to be the first finisher from my wave. I also placed 15th this year in my age group with a time of 2 hours, 1 minute, and 57 seconds. What? Over an hour faster? Okay, Mudman 1.0 was not the fast year for most people, but I'll take the improvement. Happy with this success, you bet your tush I'll be back in 2016. I bought a fat bike for my wife and I for Christmas for 2015. My plans in 2016 was to continue to train through the winter for the season. It worked out very well. My goal? To win the overall in the sport category in the MMBA CPS. I had unfinished business and smashed this goal in my first 5 races in the series. I actually beat everyone in all of the sport class races every race. I then had people telling me to move up to expert, which I did for 1 race and was still able to get on the podium. A friend, Alex, said, "I know you want to be even faster. Just jump up to Elite Pro for the last race." And that's what we did at Pando and raced against some really fast guys and did not get DFL. For Iceman 2016, I had a goal. It was to win my age group. Previously, this was a 5-year goal I had set for myself, but I had moved it up. I was seated in wave 4, and I did not like the idea of trying to win my age group behind 3 waves of riders that were sure to bottleneck the single track and keep speed slow. I tried pleading with the race peeps to move me up into at least wave 2, but they didn't budge. So I was off in wave 4 and hit slow traffic and single tracks. I tried to make up for it here and there, but was unsuccessful. At this point right here in the race, Mr. Braden goes off, and I should have followed him because he got in front of this group in the single track, and he was gone, and I was stuck. I didn't pull off the win. Instead, I was second in my age group, 1 spot from the goal with a time of 1 hour, 38 minutes, and 16 seconds, right on the heels of first place. I now had a decision to make for 2017. 2017, more fat bike training on my 40-pound steel horse, and my body was still adapting well to the load I was putting on it. I had some really good races this year in the Elite Pro category. My buddy Alex was at it again, suggesting that we race in the afternoon at Iceman with the pros. I wanted to win my age group, since that was the goal, but at the same time I did not want to be the sandbagger like I was labeled in 2016 for riding sport, so I went with the pros at 2:30. The pace was crazy fast, and you know what? I can't hang with the leaders. My back tightened up this year, I had to slow down and let it relax, and then I was able to get going again. In the end, I thought I was 49th in the pro field, but after a week, the results had been updated and I was actually 52nd out of 92 with a time of 1 hour, 51 minutes, and 1 second. The end of the season was disappointing, but still it was a great overall year. To be racing this fast my 3rd year, my 4th Iceman. It's Christmas again. For Christmas, we bought an indoor trainer, a quiet one that makes no noise for training on crappy days. It's nice to be able to be a little more consistent with the training in Michigan because it seems like we're always going through a freeze-thaw cycle in the winter, the spring, and in the fall.
Listen to how quiet this bike is. It's epic. Getting it.
A workout summary, 45-minute workout, 19 miles. 2018 was not a bad year as I improved a little over the previous year as we made our way towards Iceman. The warm-up race at Peak to Peak was a bust because the conditions were out of control and I did not want to wreck the bike or myself before the race. 2:30 on that 1st November Saturday, here we go again. Iceman was not that bad this year. I was able to break into the top 40, 39th place with a time of 1 hour 42 minutes and 8 seconds. And I was happy with that. Let's keep the ball rolling. '19 Peak to Peak, the warm-up race for Iceman. I had a pretty good race, but the back started up again like it did in the spring of 2019. I've learned that my hip must have something going on, a little arthritis, and when the air gets cold, under 60 degrees, it starts to bother me, which causes tightness in the hip area. I've learned to stay on top of mobility exercises, stretching, and icing. Going into the race this year, I was not sure what would happen with my body or the weather. As we got closer, we all knew what we were in for. Conditions like 2014 all over again, with more freeze-thaw and mud, less water.
3, 2, 1.
The race starts, and everyone is fast at the start, so you have a huge group of riders smashing to keep at the front of the group. You get in a good spot, and then you have 10 to 15 people come around you. I should have smashed more and moved into the top 20 right from the start and stayed there. Going into the first single track, we had a terrible bottleneck, and then on the third single track, I watched my group of buddies slowly fade off into the distance. I was behind a few riders that were a little slow in the mud, and I can't blame them. It was greasy, and I knew at that point that I could either A, be a jerk and tell them to get out of the way, or B, just make the time outside of the single track and have fun. So I kept yelling, "Send it," until it was over. I still managed to have fun most of the race. Coming through the final stretches of Iceman are always worth it. I love the crowd. It's the best in the world. I love the energy, the biking community. This race is epic. I was able to place 36 out of 109 racers, of which only 95 were able to finish. My time this year due to the conditions was 2 hours and 9 minutes and 48 seconds. Only a handful this year went under 2 hours, and big names like Payson, Ted King, and Cole House all must have had bike issues as they were forced to DNF. I feel good about persevering despite my own bike issues during the race. I always plan on racing Iceman. It's a great thing to look forward to and a good send-off into the off-season before things start to ramp up before the next year. Some people say you are in control of your life. Others say you are destined to be who you are. I think there's a little bit of both going on. Without Matt and Joe, I am pretty sure I would have not ended up on a mountain bike, and I would not be racing like I am today. Without my own drive and hard work ethic towards the sport, I surely would not be where I am. What's your Iceman story? How many years have you been doing it? What's your favorite part of Iceman? Let us know in the comments below. Before I go, you can be as fast as you want. The goal is for it to be fun. Iceman stories are epic, so please share yours.